How do you develop expertise over time? So I was previously in a K-6 school and a K-8 school, but I've also taught high school. So at minimum, I would see students for a few years. Even when I taught undergraduate and graduate courses, I got to see them over multiple years, multiple courses, etc. It was very rarely would I only see students for like a year or a semester. When thinking about those kinds of classes, like in the K-8 classes, it was 9 years that I could potentially see those students. I was trying to think of how to make it so that I could develop expertise from kindergarten all the way to 9 years later when they got into 8th grade. What did I want them to be able to know and be able to understand and be able to explore or create or express themselves, etc. across that 9-year period of time? How you develop expertise over that time is very different than focusing on a single class where I'm only going to see these students for a single quarter, semester, year, or whatever. If you're only focusing on that and you're not thinking of that long-term development of expertise, then we're going to, in my opinion, shortchange the students. Rather than focusing on lifelong learning of computer science, we would instead focus on just learning facts, figures, standards, etc., without actually thinking about how to apply it over the course of a lifetime. Because computer science is just constantly changing and evolving. I mean, think of like the developments in AI within the last year alone. This is going to continue and likely accelerate over time. If all we do is focus on the concepts and practices and skills and understandings that are important today, we're going to fail the students who are going to be out of the schools 10 years from now. Instead, I think, in my opinion, we should focus on developing lifelong expertise and teaching students how to develop that expertise when an adult is no longer present to help guide them. The ability to be able to learn how to learn is more important than whatever facts and figures you can learn and across your K-12 tenure. Same thing with like undergrad and graduate classes. The way that I designed every class that I ever worked with, kindergarten all the way through graduate student, was constantly trying to focus on not just what they needed to know in that moment, but how to also learn that down the road when I was no longer with them in those classes. So a challenge for you, listener, is that when you are designing your classes, think of not only what you're going to do within that quarter, semester, or year, or however long you're working with your students, but think about how you're going to encourage them to continue to develop their learning and refine their understanding at the conclusion of whatever class you are designing. If we can do that, then perhaps we can have some lifelong learners who are interested in computer science, whether or not they even decide to pursue a career in it. This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast was from episode 185, which is titled Mind the Gap, the Illusion of Skill Acquisition in Computational Thinking.